Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. This is your Manchester United vs Southampton preview. It's at Old Trafford. It's Saturday the 12th of February. It's a 12:30 kick-off. Southampton play tonight against Tottenham. Southampton are 12th in the Premier League at the moment. I do know a lot of the players that Southampton have got. So they've got Armando Broja. He's out with injury at the moment. Nathan Redmond. He's one of the best players that Southampton have got. Adam Armstrong. Southampton got him from Blackburn. Shane Long. He's at Southampton. Shane Long is a former West Brom player. They have Stuart Armstrong, Che Adams, Theo Walcott. Last season, wasn't Theo Walcott on loan with Everton? Don't forget Theo Walcott is a former Arsenal player. James Ward-Prowse, he's a very good midfielder. Romeu, he's a good midfielder. Southampton also have Romain Perraud. They have Valentino Livramento, Kyle Walker-Peters, Nathan Tella, he's got an injury at the moment. William Smallbone, he's out with injury. Alex McCarthy, one of their goalkeepers, he's out with injury. The other goalkeepers Southampton they've got Caballero, Harry Lewis and Fraser Forster. So they're the goalkeepers they've got. They have Jan Bednarik. He's a defender. Jack Stevens, he's also a defender. So there, a lot of the players they do have. Let me put into the equation that Southampton have lost good players. You know, they lost Danny Ings. Danny Ings went to Aston Villa from Southampton. They lost Vestergaard. He went to Leicester from Southampton. Quite a few years ago, they lost Charlie Austin. They lost Højbjerg to Tottenham. Cedric Soares left them. When he left Southampton, he went to Arsenal. And they've lost players like Nathaniel Klein and Dejan Lovren, Adam Lallana, Sadio Mane. Virgil van Dijk. They lost Luke Shaw around 8 years ago to us. So there you go, and you know, Liverpool have done very good transfer business with Southampton. Half of Liverpool's squad are Southampton players. Southampton's manager is Ralph Hasenhüttl. He's been Southampton's manager for over 3 years. He's under contract with Southampton until 2024. Ralph Hasenhüttl has already said he will consider retiring when his contract expires with Southampton. Southampton appointed Ralph Hasenhüttl back in December 2018. Southampton were actually very consistent when they had Mauricio Pochettino, because Pochettino got Southampton to their highest ever finish in the Premier League, but Pochettino only enjoyed a short managerial tenure with Southampton. Now, Manchester United are coming into this game on the back of a 1-1 draw against Burnley. Manchester United's goal came from Paul Pogba against Burnley. It was Pogba's first goal of the season, and it was Pogba's first Premier League appearance since October, because don't forget he was out with injury for a while. Don't forget Manchester United had 2 goals disallowed. Raphael Varane had his goal disallowed for offside by VAR. Harry Maguire was the culprit for Varane's disallowed goal. And Josh Brownhill's own goal was disallowed because in the build-up, Paul Pogba committed a foul. Josh Brownhill's own goal came from a Marcus Rashford cross. Burnley's equaliser came from Jay Rodriguez. It was his first goal in 50 league games. Harry Maguire was to blame for their equaliser. But Man United were dominant in the first half against Burnley. Now, Manchester United won this fixture against Southampton at Old Trafford last season, 9-0. That was Manchester United's biggest win since the 9-0 win against Ipswich back in 1995, was it? That's what, around 27 years ago. Manchester United drew away at Southampton 1-1 towards the start of the season. Manchester United do have some players missing, but not many. Tellez is not available at the moment because he recently tested positive for COVID. Fred is not available at the moment because he also recently tested positive for COVID. Bai is still injured, but Bailly doesn't really get in the team anyway. Lindelof has not played the last few games. Is it due to personal reasons? Chong has got an injury, and that's about it. And obviously, you know the news on Mason Greenwood. Prior to the Burnley game, it said Mason Greenwood was dropped by Nike after rape allegation. Mason Greenwood is banned from England and Manchester United, so he can't train or play any matches. Last week, Greenwood was released on bail after his arrest. He's been arrested twice on suspicion of sexual assault, making threats to kill, rape and assault. And the other week he was officially removed from FIFA 22. So it's good that EA took action. It is disgraceful what Greenwood has done, and I've got to say his career at Manchester United is officially over. And his England career is also officially over. Greenwood is only the age of 20. Greenwood, you know, joined Man United at the age of 6. He made his senior debut for the club back in 2019. And since then, Greenwood has gone on to make 129 appearances. He scored over 30 goals. Last season, Greenwood signed a new 4-year contract. Manchester United must beat Southampton to keep the top 4 hopes alive. You know, Man United moved out of the top 4, reflecting on that draw with Burnley. Obviously, West Ham did beat Watford 1-0, so they've moved back in to the top 4. Rangnick, he gave his perception on the Burnley game, and he admitted that Manchester United were not good enough. Prior to the game against Burnley, in his press conference, he said that the club are improving on the pitch despite the shock FA Cup exit to Middlesbrough, and he mentioned that if Man United have not won a title in the last 10 years, there are some good reasons for that. Rangnick has been Manchester United's interim manager for around 2 months. He's now managed 12 games in all competitions. He's lost, 2 games so far. He's Man United's interim manager until the end of the season. Then Rangnick is expected to take up a consultancy role for a further 2 years. Rangnick won't get the Man United job on a permanent basis. Rangnick has endured 1 transfer window as Manchester United's interim manager. Manchester United endured a very disappointing January transfer window, because last month we didn't make any signings. Man United wanted to sign a midfielder because when Rangnick first came in, he identified Manchester United's midfield as a weakness. Lingard and Henderson should have left last month, but Man United blocked Lingard and Dean Henderson's exits. We had the incident with Mason Greenwood towards the end of last month. We did loan a few players out though last month, like I've already mentioned. You know, Van der Beek went out on loan to Everton, Martial went out on loan to Sevilla, and Amad Diallo went out on loan to Rangers. Ethan Laird went out on loan. Tuanzebe went out on loan to Napoli. Tiden Mengi went out on loan to Birmingham. So yeah, we let around 8 players leave last month. But I was disappointed that Rangnick didn't get backed, because he actually promised, or should I say he got promised, he was going to be backed. In the summer, I'm expecting Man United to make signings. On the other side of things, I'm expecting a lot of players to depart the club in the summer. Rangnick, before Manchester United, he was the head of sports and development at Lokomotiv Moscow. To his credit, he has made changes since he's come in. Don't forget, he recommended Ewan Sharping as an assistant coach and analyst. He also recommended Chris Armisen as an assistant coach, and he recommended Saz Chalenzin as a sports psychologist. There's been good performances under Rangnick. There's also been poor performances as well. I think Manchester United's next permanent manager will either be Erik ten Hag or Mauricio Pochettino. Now, don't forget, revert back to a few days ago now, like I updated you, a Dutch journalist came out and claimed that Erik ten Hag will be leaving Ajax at the end of the season, following the departure of Mark Overmars. Erik ten Hag, of course, was upset following his departure. And earlier on this season, Rangnick said that he wants Erik ten Hag to become Man United's new permanent manager in the summer, and I presume there's a lot of United fans that would like to see him become the club's next permanent manager. I think if Erik ten Hag came to the Premier League, he'd replicate what he's done with Ajax. You've got to admire what he's done at Ajax. You know, he's developed the young players well. He's won a couple of titles with them. Revert back to 2019, he got Ajax to the Champions League semi-finals, so there you go. His contract at Ajax expires next year. He's been Ajax manager for over 4 years. Ajax appointed him in back in 2017. Ajax is the 4th club he's managing in his managerial career, because before Ajax he managed Utrecht. Before then he managed Bayern Munich's reserves, and before then he managed Go Ahead Eagles. Mauricio Pochettino has reportedly told his friends he will be leaving PSG in the summer. And the other week it said Pochettino could be sacked by March, and Pochettino's job hinges on PSG getting to the next round of the Champions League. Said not so long ago that Man United consider swapping Cristiano Ronaldo for PSG boss Mauricio Pochettino. PSG had tried to get Zidane to replace Pochettino. Pochettino's been at PSG over the year. I think he's won a French Cup with them. His contract at PSG expires next year. I think if Pochettino became Man United's next manager, I think he'd do a good job, because he'd suit the strappings of the club and he'd get the best out of these group of players. Plus he's managed in the Premier League before, which is beneficial, so he knows the Premier League very well. Revert back to when Man United sacked Mourinho. Man United should have got Pochettino then, but the club decided to go with Solskjaer instead. Man United are looking for the 5th permanent manager since Ferguson. 4 permanent managers have been sacked since Ferguson. We sacked David Moyes after 10 months. Then we sacked Louis van Gaal after 2 years. despite us winning the FA Cup under him. Then Manchester United sacked Jose Mourinho after 2.5 years, despite him winning 3 trophies in his first season. Mourinho enjoyed one good season at Man United, but the reasons it didn't work out under him is because he had bad disputes with the board and bad disputes with the top players. And last year, Manchester United sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after almost 3 years in charge. Like I updated you yesterday, the Football Observatory said that Manchester United have spent over 1.3 billion in 10 years. Man United have won just 4 trophies in 10 years, and Man United have recouped around 397 million in sales. Man United have wasted like 909 million in the transfer market. Manchester United have not won anything since 2017, that's 5 years ago now, and that's nowhere near good enough to our standards. We haven't won the Premier League since 2013. You know, we've been playing catch-up since Ferguson, and like I said, no one's going to replicate what Ferguson did at the club. You know, Alex Ferguson was the greatest manager of all time. He brought success to Manchester United. He won 30 odd trophies, including 13 Premier League titles, but he didn't settle in straight away because he didn't win out in his first 4 years at Man United. Alex Ferguson was at Manchester United for around 26 years, so reflecting on that, he was a long-serving manager. The only mistake Ferguson made was recommending David Moyes in when he retired, but the reasons he did that is because they were both Scottish, and for some reason Ferguson seemed to have a lot of time for Moyes. I'm glad that Ed Woodward stepped down. Was it at the beginning of this month? Because Woodward was one of the biggest issues at the club for a long time. Ed Woodward was at Manchester United for 17 years. Richard Arnold replaced Ed Woodward as the new chief executive. The Glazers, they're still at Man United. The Glazers have owned Manchester United for around 16.5 years now. They've been one of the biggest problems at the club for a long time. The Glazers bought Manchester United for 500 million back in 2005. Revert back to April last year, don't forget, Man United fans protested against the Glazers at the Carrington training ground and at Old Trafford because the Glazers were planning to scrap the Champions League for that European Super League. In the end though, the Glazers did apologise. Well, that's what Solskjaer mentioned at the time. In the summer, the players who I think will leave, Dean Henderson will leave in the summer because Henderson doesn't really get in goal, because revert back to last summer, De Gea reclaimed that #1 spot back. Henderson was in goal for the cup game against Middlesbrough, but that was only his 3rd appearance of the season. Like I mentioned earlier on in the video, Henderson should have left last month, but Man United blocked his exit. Earlier on this season, Henderson had COVID for a while. Towards the end of last season though, he actually got that #1 jersey, and he did well in a lot of the games he was in goal for last season. Henderson has got that experience behind him. He enjoyed 2 successful loans with Sheffield. He's had other loan spells before with Stockport, Grimsby and Shrewsbury. And Henderson's got a contract with Man United till 2025. There's an option of a further year. He signed that new long-term contract before the start of last season. Jones and Bailly will also leave the club this year. I was disappointed Jones didn't leave last month. Don't forget, on deadline day last month, Romano said that Jones rejected a loan move to Bordeaux. But Man United and Bordeaux had actually reached an agreement for Phil Jones to go out on loan in order to get more playing time. And reports from France said that Phil Jones' talks were at final stages. But Rangnick said he was happy for Jones to stay. Jones is out of contract at Man United next year. He doesn't really get in our team, this season's been his 11th season at Man United, so he has been a long-serving player. Eric Bailly, like I've said already, doesn't get in the team much. He's injured at the moment. He's injury prone, which is a concern. He was at the African Cup of Nations not too long ago. The last game he played for Man United was the 3-1 win against Burnley towards the end of last year. But he came off injured in that game. Harry Maguire and Bissaka, there's a good chance they'll be leaving in the summer because they're not good enough to represent the club. Matic will leave in the summer. Good chance Pogba will leave in the summer as well. Lingard will leave in the summer. Lingard should have left last month, like I've already mentioned. Mata will leave in the summer because he's out of contract in the summer. Cavani will leave in the summer. And there's a good chance that Ronaldo will leave. So anyway guys, on my next video I want to give you some news on Youri Tielemans from Leicester, and I'm going to speak with you a bit more about Harry Maguire. So anyway guys, that's everything to update with. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel if you do consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again very soon.